Greetings from Amera Astronomy Center and Jordan Planetarium at the University of Maine. My name is Sean Lotch, I'm the Planetarium Director, and I look forward to sharing some of the beauty and wonder of our universe with you. Today we're going to be doing our virtual sky tour number 3, and we're going to start off with our sky around the time of sunset, about 8:15 tonight here in Maine, and explore some of the things that are currently visible here from your own backyard. So let's go ahead and get started. We are, of course, using our program Stellarium, and I'm going to bring in our pointer over here. We're going to start off again around 8:15, and this is a little bit of evening twilight still left in our sky, you might say. You're going to notice an extremely bright star-like object over in the western sky, and that is the planet Venus. We've seen it over the last several weeks. It's extremely bright, and it's been getting higher and higher in our sky after sunset each night, so it's a great time to see it. It will be visible for a few hours after the sun goes down. Now, Venus is very high and very bright, and you're going to see it even before it gets completely dark. What you might also notice, and tonight it may be a little bit more challenging to see, but down here towards our horizon we do have the moon. And the moon is our nearest neighbor in space. Back between 1969 and 1972, of course, 12 astronauts had a chance to walk on its surface. The moon is 2 days old today, and this is Friday, the 24th of April, and so it's going to appear as just a very thin crescent shape. In fact, you might even see a little bit of the dark portion, which we call Earthshine, which is lit up by reflections off of Earth's ocean onto the moon. Now, the nice thing about the moon, of course, is if you watch over the next several days, you're going to notice some things happening with our moon. If we waited until the 25th, you're going to see it here, and it's going to almost make what we would call another eye for Taurus. Here is Aldebaran, the eye of Taurus, the bull. The V shape is the face, and again on Saturday night it's going to almost make another eye there for Taurus, the bull. And on Sunday night, this is the really nice night to see it. You're going to have a nice crescent moon with Venus, and they're going to be very close together in the evening sky. So again, I would urge you to take a look at the moon over the next few nights and watch Venus as well. And you're going to sort of see that day-to-day motion of the moon across our sky. Let's go ahead. We're going to set time into motion. Let our sun set a little bit here and move forward in time. As we do so, I'm going to leave the moon where it would be on the 26th, or Sunday evening. And we're going to go into full twilight here and into the early hours of darkness. So here we are about 8:35 or so, when it is completely dark, and you can see, in addition to the moon and Venus, you can see a bunch of the stars. You'll notice from looking at this that we have Orion the Hunter, which is really low on the horizon. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to be starting to lose him, so this is probably one of your final chances to look for Orion. The stars Betelgeuse and Bellatrix mark up his shoulders. Rigel and Saiph are his legs, and these three stars form his belt. Again, by the time it gets completely dark, Orion very near our horizon, so do try to catch it this week. You can use that belt to find the bright star Sirius in Canis Major, Orion's hunting dog, with the 3 stars right here that form the head. Sirius is sort of the front collar, and the front legs come down like this. Here's that body of the dog, the hind legs, and the tail. And drawing the line through Orion's shoulders and heading straight up here, you're going to come to Procyon and Gomesia. Those two make up Canis Minor, or the little dog. So if we were to bring our constellation lines up there, again you see Orion and you see Canis Major. Of course, you can see Orion right here, Canis Major over here, and Taurus the bull that we looked at earlier with the moon and Venus. Well, one of the things that I wanted to do with today's lecture, we talked about the moon and Venus, but I do think it's good to take a look at our morning skies. We have covered a little bit of the evening sky in the last 2 lectures, so I thought we would go ahead and do a morning sky tour. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shift our point of view a bit. We're going to turn around and look towards the eastern sky here in Stellarium. And one of the reasons we want to be looking towards the east, of course, is in the morning sky we want to look for some of those morning planets. Right now there are 3 planets in the early morning sky, and it's well worth, if you're an early riser, taking a look for them. Let's go ahead and put time into motion. Before we do that, actually, one thing that I did want to show you in this sort of evening sky view looking towards the east is that you have a very bright star here called Arcturus, which is part of Boötes, the herdsman or the shepherd as it's sometimes seen, and it's actually chasing after the Big Dipper. In fact, you'd use the arc of the handle of the Dipper to find the bright star Arcturus, and from there you could spike to Spica in the constellation of Virgo. Again, one of those springtime constellations. Well, I'm going to turn those constellation lines off a bit. We're going to set time into motion here, and I'm going to take you through the evening somewhat rapidly. And of course, you do know that the Earth is going to turn beneath our feet. Stars are going to rise in the east, drift across the sky, and eventually set in the west. Well, let's go ahead here all the way until our early morning hours. And as we do so, we're going to see our sky change. Here, I'm going to stop as we start to see those planets come up. There they are, right there. I'm going to change our view just a little bit here so that you can see all of those planets in our morning sky. And this is the sky around 3:30 in the morning or so, and at 3:30 all three planets will be visible by that time. So if we were to bring our pointer back into our view here, we can see those three planets. Jupiter is going to be the brightest. It is the third brightest thing we see in our sky after, of course, the planet Venus, which is exceptionally bright. Right next to it, the planet Saturn, beautiful ring jewel of the solar system. You would need a telescope at least 2 inches in diameter or so to see the rings of Saturn. But with binoculars looking at Jupiter, you could see the 4 Galilean moons, Io, Ganymede, Callisto, and Europa, which would look like little pinpoints of light on either side of the planet. And Mars, right down near the horizon, is going to be reddish in color and much fainter. But these three planets are in our morning sky, really spectacular and hard to miss. Well, I do want to, of course, show you some of the constellations that are visible in that area of the sky as well. And these constellations right now are a little bit easier to see if we sort of zoom out a bit. So I'm going to pull back a little bit. The planets are right next to a constellation that looks a lot like a teapot shape here in our sky. And that is going to be the constellation that we call Sagittarius the Archer. So this is sort of the base of the teapot down here. Its spout, right like that, a lid, and a handle. There's even a little teaspoon here, which looks like it's spooning some sugar into that teapot. And if you look closely, you'll notice the steam rising up out of that teapot. That is the Milky Way, our home galaxy. All the stars we see in the night sky belong to the Milky Way. That hazy band is looking along the plane of the galaxy. And Sagittarius, when we look right off the spout of that teapot there in Sagittarius, we actually are looking towards, again, the center of our Milky Way galaxy, which is right about here. Well, I'm going to go ahead and follow that teapot and that steam on up. You're going to come up to a bright star over here. This star is called Altair, and it is part of the constellation known as Aquila the Eagle. And Aquila is sort of a diamond-shaped group of stars right through there in that area of the sky. So here's sort of the diamond, and the body would come down in this way. Well, let's use our constellation lines here in Stellarium. We'll turn those on and come back over to take a look at this. And here again, as we bring our pointer back in, there we have that teapot Sagittarius, a little teaspoon above it, the steam coming up. And here is the constellation that we called Aquila the Eagle with the bright star Altair right through there. Well, if I shift our view yet again, I'm going to sort of bring it down a bit. If you're looking at that area of the sky and you have Altair, you're going to come above it and you're going to find the summer triangle, which is Altair, and it includes Vega and Deneb. Now you're saying to yourself, we're in spring, which is true. Right now it is spring, but in the summer months, this will be high overhead for most of the night. But you can see it again in the morning sky currently. Well, Vega, Deneb, and Altair form the summer triangle. We've already talked about Altair being part of Aquila the Eagle. Vega is part of Lyra the Harp, this group of stars here that sort of looks a little bit like a figure 8 there in the night sky. It's hard to make out that one little star there, but sort of like a squared off figure 8. It is supposed to be a handheld harp or an instrument the Greeks called a lyre, and Deneb marks the tail of Cygnus the swan, which body, neck, and head come this way. Here's one wing of the swan and the other wing in that summer triangle there in our night sky, our morning sky, relatively bright. It's going to point you, if you follow the direction it's pointing, right towards Jupiter, again, and Saturn and Mars just a little bit below our vantage point from here. There we go. We can bring it up a little bit again where you can see it. And in fact, I'll even zoom out just a little bit more so you can see that entire summer triangle pointing you towards those morning planets. So if you are an early morning riser, again, you'll be able to see all these planets starting off around 3:30 in the morning. I will go ahead and move time forward just a little bit in case you're not quite up that early. But let's say we went ahead to about roughly 4 a.m. or so, and right here at 4 a.m. you're going to see those planets, really easy to spot. That summer triangle high overhead will point you towards them. So again, in the morning sky around 4 a.m. Well, this has been a quick tour of some of the planets that we can see. We started off in the evening sky with the Moon and Venus, and then covered some of our morning sky. Do keep looking up, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you at the Maine Astronomy Center and Jordan Planetarium in the near future.